So whenever I speak of ego death, people always go to the positive sides that they think their ego has. So they believe in like whatever fantasy version of themselves, whatever overcompensation, like whatever they think is good about themselves. So what is hard to see is that all the negative things that happen to us are also the ego. So if I feel shame, if I feel, and that's ego completely, like I feel shame. Something happens to you, that feeling ashamed, that's completely not going to help the whole situation. It is what it is. Feeling shame, dragging it on, is your ego taking the negativity and using it as fuel to keep going and keep going and keep going. Guilt, I suppose it's exactly the same. Depression, anxiety. If I do something and I feel guilty because I did something bad, that's natural. That's being a human being. But like for instance, I used to be completely haunted by guilt. Everything I did, I felt guilty. Like if I did something that was opposing my mother, I'd feel guilty. If my mother, I remember I was mid-20s and I sent my uncle a letter, and just to tell him how much I appreciated him in my life and how much I enjoyed seeing him as a child in summers. And he was 90-ish or something like that. So I just felt like I needed to write him this letter. And he read out the letter to my mum and my grandma, and he started crying. And so it should have been a nice thing. I should have felt happy that I moved him. But all I did, so my mother called me, told me this story, and when you made your Uncle Eric cry, that's how she said it to me. So she was jealous that I sent him the letter because I expressed my love for him, because he showed me true love. And so she made sure on multiple occasions that she'd say like, oh, you sent him the letter that made him cry. So obviously I'm going to feel guilty. And I remember going to my psychiatrist at the time and going like, oh, I can't get this guilt off me. Like, I feel so bad because I made my uncle cry. And he was like, what are you talking about? Like, you did something nice. And why would you feel guilt? And that's when I fully realized that, okay, so this guilt is something that's been intrinsically in my life, like put into my life. So my mum would always make me feel guilty. So then I would progress and I would take her making me feel guilty and do it to myself in my own head. So, and for what? It didn't help. It doesn't make anything change. Like if I do something bad, I will learn my lesson. Feeling guilty doesn't change the situation. Like if you do something bad and you're feeling guilty, you'll feel guilty until you apologize or until you rectify it, yes. But I was putting on guilt for no reason, like, for not visiting somebody or for not calling someone. Like it was a constant shame hoodie that I was wearing. I always felt guilty. Like I remember like when I did well in snowball contests, I felt guilty. I never, like whatever happened, I would turn it one way or the other. So if I think I preferred, my favorite spot in a snowball contest was second. I didn't want to take the first prize, but like, be at the top, but not at the top. I didn't want to be first because then I always felt like I stole it from someone. So that's how far my guilt went. And obviously with freeing your mind, so facing yourself, your past, your future, your idea of yourself. So giving up any idea you ever had of yourself. That the ego, that inherently entails not really feeling guilt anymore. Obviously if I did something bad, I'd feel guilty. But you don't do anything bad anymore if there's no ego. Ego-driven actions are usually the bad things, like where you take too much or you're being selfish. So that doesn't happen anymore. You're just nice to people. Like all you have left over is joy and love. No more guilt, no more shame, no more what if this, that, and the other. There's no more worrying. So as soon as that happens, your life, it's a silencing of your mind. So it's all of a sudden it's like the moment just before you're falling asleep, and just everything's just perfect. And that's what your life then turns into. Imagine that, and no more worrying, no more thinking, no more overthinking. You don't need it anymore. It's done. An action happens, and then you move on until you get further information. It's so much easier, and it's especially good now for me because of MS. So I know my future's bleak. I know my health is not good. I know that I've seen the MRIs of my brain. I know that there's only a limited time that I'm going to be able to speak to you coherently. I'm already noticing sort of lapses in diction at times, and that's another reason why I haven't been recording, because I was so tired that I couldn't really formulate coherent sentences, and so I didn't even try, so I just needed to pause it for a second. So from the most obvious first clear sign was I was going skateboarding and I didn't feel guilty. And I did this and I didn't feel guilty. Before it was everything I did, I was questioning if it's the right or wrong thing to do. So the guilt part completely went away. The same with shame. I've been publicly shamed or embarrassed or should be embarrassed, but I literally did not care. So people that were trying to embarrass me, I just went okay, bye-bye. So it's super easy. Imagine also if I went to up to a girl in the bar and she'd say no, I'd be okay, no problem, you know what I mean? It doesn't exist anymore. The action happens and then it's over. That's it. So this is the main reason why I don't want to point out to the negatives, but the negative things, we always think of the positive things of the ego. They're all fake anyway. They're not real. It's just our dream imagination of ourselves. Sorry, mate. But for me, it was straight away I noticed that I don't feel guilty anymore. I feel like I have full authority of my life. I feel like what I'm doing for me and for fun. And it changed my life completely. Before I was just struggling on. I wasn't living. I wasn't enjoying my life. I was doing things I'm supposed to do, but I wasn't living. And then suddenly everything changed. Thank you, Krishnamurti. So understanding Krishnamurti changed everything. So I have to mention him because he's the one that taught me. And that's why I'm going to bring him up for probably, hopefully, in every video I do. Thank you very much for listening. Talk to you soon. One love.